Hello Internet, my name is Brink and welcome back to the channel. Now in this episode, we're on the last chapter of this deep dive, where I provide some gameplay tips and tricks and other cool things. And make sure you have all the information you need on your screen to be a good tank. My UI from a Brewmaster perspective. If you need a refresher on the rotation, check out my episode 4 quick rotation guide. Tips and tricks. Okay, here are my tank tips. And a few of these are not just limited to Brewmaster, because my first tip is pick a tank you actually enjoy. The more you enjoy the class, the faster you will learn it, and also the bigger the chance you're gonna stick with the tank longer. And this will make you better and better over time. Second tip, start in easy content. There is no shame in it. Even testing out your skills while pushing in delves will make you better. And that said, there's just more room to make mistakes in lower Mythic Plus keys. Try to find out what mechanics are happening, even though you're not noticing them as much on this difficulty. This way they won't come as a surprise when you're climbing in higher keys. My third tip, learn your mitigation. Know when to use what. The dungeons of this season have harder trash mobs than bosses. It's just a matter of time that you will run into the mobs that will make popping fortifying brew mandatory. And when they do, make sure you use it, or your healer will have a hard time keeping you alive. The in-game animations do a good job of letting you know what's happening, so pay attention. Fourth tip, dungeon pacing. The biggest thing that probably annoys the DPS is when the groups are small, or the overall speed going through the dungeon is way too slow. One of the biggest tells when this is happening is when you see the DPS ninja pulling more mobs in. I know it's annoying, but when it does, embrace it. Taunt the mobs in the pack and take advantage of this range tagging. And try to make the groups bigger, so he doesn't have time to do that anymore. Now a good rule of thumb is, 1 or 2 packs is way too slow. 3 or 4 packs is sufficient. 5 is probably pushing it, unless you are overgeared for the content. Trust your defenses and your healer, and if you're pulling too big, the healer will tell you. And trust me on this one, it's better to hear from your healer than from your DPS. Mythic Plus is all about timing the dungeons, so just remember, you're on the clock and it's your job to keep up the tempo. Tip 5. Buy Emergency Soul Link. As a Brewmaster, this can be a game changer. And you don't even need engineering to use this item. If your healer dies, you can combat rest your healer and save the key, or DPS if he's worth getting up. Tip 6. Silver Moon Health Potions. Do I need to say more? Tip 7. Make sure you have a clean UI. Make sure you have all the information you need. Avoid clutter, avoid double information, and check out the last chapter of this video to see my in-depth Brewmaster Monk UI. Races, professions and macros. It's my opinion that you should choose the race that you enjoy the most. The one that you like or that appeals to you from maybe a lore perspective or visuals, or how the transmog looks on the body type. But I see this question asked a lot. Brink, what race should I choose? What is the best for a tank? And if you really want to min-max it, here are my recommendations. For Alliance, pick the normal dwarf or the dark iron dwarf. The reason for this is simple, they're racials. Stormform and Fireblood are incredibly strong and always nice to have. The built-in debuff removal and the damage reduction can be a lifesaver in Mythic Plus. Like dropping that nasty bleed in Alcatar Academy this season. For Horde, Vulpera are also worth mentioning. Their racial, nose for trouble, can be pretty convenient. It reduces the first damage you take from an enemy by 5% of your maximum health. This makes it especially useful in lower keys or when mobs die quickly. As keys get higher, its overall impact becomes a smaller percentage of your total healing. Even though it scales with your health, you'll notice its value will drop the longer the mobs will stay alive. A couple of honorable mentions. For the Alliance, Night Elf. Shadow Melt can be incredibly useful. And an honorable mention for the Horde. Tauren with Endurance for increased health and the War Stomp for that extra bit of control. But at the end of the day, play what you enjoy the most. And if you really want to min-max, go Dwarf. Professions. I'm gonna keep this part short, because it's really not that complicated. If you're looking for a performance increase, there really isn't any profession that directly impacts your power. That said, there are a few convenient options worth considering. If you're playing Brewmaster, I already mentioned picking up the Emergency Soul Link. You don't need to be engineering to use it, but engineering does come with some cool goggles. Personally, I like Alchemy. It doubles your flask duration, and let's be honest, flasks are way too expensive. So that alone makes it a real strong choice. And if you want to save some gold, go for a crafting profession to make your own gear. It's always a solid option. Macros. To be honest, I don't use that many macros. And I don't recommend macroing abilities together, just because you have less control of what you're doing. But one that I do use on the Death Knight could also be used for the Brewmaster. And that is Exploding Keg in front of your character. Just like Death and Decay on the Death Knight, placing it at your feet. Or Sigils from Demon Hunter. I want my Exploding Keg to be fast. And when I do use it, it's almost always inside my group, close to me. So this macro does make a lot of sense. One more that I can recommend is a mouse over macro for the combat res item, the Emergency Soul Link. And the last one is a mouse over macro for your resurrection. UI setup for Brewmaster. I already have a full video showing you how to import my UI, so I'll leave a link if you want to learn how to set it up, including importing the retail UI and cooldown manager. This section is more about what I use and how I make sure I have all the information I need without cluttering my screen. First things first, I don't want duplicate information. Because of that, I avoid using too many cooldown trackers. Most of my abilities are easy enough to track directly from my action bars. One thing I do prioritize though, is having a larger, more visible stagger bar right in the center of my screen. I set this up using Cooldown Manager Centered, together with Better Cooldown Manager. And again, if you want a full breakdown on how it works, I've got a detailed video on my channel. And I've actually removed my energy bar from the middle, since I rarely get energy starved and don't really need to focus on it. If I ever do want to check it, I can still see it on my character panel over on the left. I still run big wigs and little wigs, mainly for the timer bars on boss mechanics. It makes it so much easier for me to see what's coming up next. This way I can prepare and position accordingly. My warnings are displayed on the top of the screen, while the timer bars sit just above my target frame. My buffs and debuffs are placed over here, and if there's something important I really need to track, I'll move it closer to my character panel, so it's more in focus. And last but not least, I keep my interrupt right here, because that's where my eyes naturally are most of the time when I'm looking at enemy nameplates. Nameplates. Now speaking of enemy nameplates, I use Plater on my tank and Platinator on my caster. I like Plater because it has better threat indicators on the enemy nameplates and also aggro highlighting. In my humble opinion, it just does a better job with threat. I also use color coding for enemy types. For example, purple means caster. Honestly, I can't tank without these anymore, so I highly recommend setting this up. I'll leave an import link for Plater and the one for Platinator as well. And if you just want my action bar layout, don't worry, I got you covered. I'll drop an import link for that one as well. You can find everything on my Pastebin, all for free of course. I'm a tank, not a goblin. Just keep in mind, copying my bars won't magically fix your gameplay. You still gotta press the right buttons at the right time. But hey, at least now, you look like you know what you're doing while you figure it out. And if you actually need help getting there, check out my other guides. I break everything down step by step, no bullshit. And there you have it, that's the full breakdown for Brewmaster. That also brings us to the end of the deep dive. If you still have questions, feel free to post them in the comments below. As always, my advice, keep the cycle going, stick to your rotation, and you'll maximize both your damage and survivability. If this video helps you out, a like tells YouTube to show it to more lost tanks out there. And remember, as Muhammad Ali said, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Your monk hands can't hit what your UI can't see. Thanks for watching, Brinks out.